Alright guys, so I've been in such a Pixar mood that I've rewatched A Bug's Life, which I have not reviewed on this channel. And A Bug's Life is one of those nostalgic movies that I've seen so many times, and I wore out the VHS of that and like Toy Story and Toy Story 2 and all the other Disney movies that I watched as a kid. And A Bug's Life is just one of those ones that I didn't rewatch a lot over the years. Like Toy Story, like Toy Story 1 and 2 and 3 are the ones that I would immediately float to if like it's a Pixar movie. In A Bug's Life, I think gets a bad rap where like it's kind of forgotten because there's only one film in the franchise. It's not a franchise; it's just one film, and people just forget about this one. And I really think it's unfortunate. And it's the second Pixar film ever released, and after A Toy Story, which was the first full-length CG animated movie. A Bug's Life, I think, was a great second one to go on. Like, I really think the way that they started out with toys being animated, like animated toys, and then they animate bugs, and I thought that that was the next perfect step because they didn't fully get humans right yet, and they didn't look terrible, but the humans in the first Toy Story and Toy Story 2 are not as, of course, not as great as they look now in the Pixar movies, but they didn't have the right technology. So I really liked that the next thing they found easy to animate was bugs, and I thought that the animation in this is gorgeous and really incredible. And I think just like Toy Story 1, this one just really holds up, even though it's less. I don't want to say less great, but it's less like complex animation, if that makes sense. And also, this was released at the same time Ants was released from DreamWorks, which a jealous Jeffrey Katzenberg left Disney and went and made his own movie, and he did all these things behind their backs and tried to one up them and made Ants the same time Bug's Life was released. They were like a couple months apart, so it's so funny that they are so close together. And I've seen Ants a couple times. I don't remember it well. I'll rewatch it one day, but it's not as good as A Bug's Life in my opinion, from what I remember. And again, I haven't seen Ants in years, so it might. I don't know, but I don't really remember loving it like I do Bug's Life. But I'm also biased towards I love Pixar movies, even if there's ones that are not that great. So. I love how this one is very humorous too. I like how it starts out with a leaf falling down off the tree onto the ground, where it shows ants walking in a path carrying food, and a leaf lands in front of one of the ants, and he just screams, "I'm lost!" And he just doesn't know what to do, and he freaks out, and it's so funny. And I like how it kind of makes sense in real life with ants, where you see if you look at ants walking around in a path and you block their path, they start frantically moving around. I thought that was really hilarious, and I thought that's so funny how they did something similar to real life with real ants. The humor is really good in this, and I like how, even though the story is kind of basic, I feel like that's why this one doesn't get as much recognition, even though I love this one, in which the movie is kind of basic in the plot, where this outcast character, Flick, goes and gets warriors to fight, but then you realize they aren't warriors, they're just circus guys. So it's kind of a want-want situation for Flick. And I think, even though that story is kind of basic, I really do like the story because of how great the characters are and how funny they are and how likable they are with the acting. And the cast, the voice cast in this is fantastic. The guy who plays Flick, Dave Foley, is so good because you really do feel sympathy for this guy, because this is a outcast character who's kind of weird, and he does weird experiments, and people don't like him because he's different, which of course is kind of a typical trope, but I think that it works because of his voice performance, and just the animation is very well with how you really see how much he emotes. Kevin Spacey as Hopper is so awesome. This is a great villain. Kevin Spacey is so good in this movie, and he brings so much because he's got such an intimidating presence, even in animation form. The way that Hopper is animated is so good, and he is so intimidating because of the voice performance. Kevin Spacey is already intimidating. Like that scene where they first appear and come down and talk to Princess Ada, who all the food's gone because Flick knocked it over and it all fell into the pond. And he comes up to Princess Ada and she says, "There's not any food up there." And he says, "Well, do you think I'm stupid?" She said, "No." And he says, "Do I look stupid to you?" And like he says it in such an intimidating way that it's really, really effective. Like he's just so good in this role. And Julia Louis-Dreyfus as Princess Ada. I love Julia Louis-Dreyfus, and she's so funny in this role, and she's so great, and she's just got such a great voice for a voice performance. If that makes sense. Like she's such a great voice actress, even though she hasn't done a lot of voice acting. Her voice is, I felt like, worked so well. And Phyllis Diller as the Queen, she's so funny. She's got so many great lines. And all the circus characters are so funny, like Heimlich in particular. Heimlich is so hilarious. Like, he is just so funny, the little caterpillar, and he's got this kind of dopey kind of way he talks, like, "Oh, I'm a cute little bumblebee." Like, he's got an accent, but he talks in a dopey way. And he is just so funny and so charming, you know, like that character. The thing I love too is that he's voiced by Joe Ranft, who also voiced Wheezy in Toy Story 2 and voiced a lot of Pixar characters. And Joe Ranft is just one of those really great actors, which unfortunately had a very untimely death in 2005. But Joe Ranft, I thought, did a fantastic job as Heimlich. And just all the other circus performers are so funny. They're all so charming and likable. All the circus troupe, I really love all of them. Like, they all have great performances. And they're all by big voice actors too, and I really appreciate that as well. The world in this, I think, is beautiful as well, because you look at it from the point of view of an ant, and like you see how beautiful of a world this is. And I really love the fact that, again, because the animation is so great in this movie, despite being more simplistic than the other Pixar movies, it still is incredible. And it really, truly blows me away every time I watch this, and I think that it just works so well. The use of how bugs function in this, I think, is great too. Like, you see, like, again, like whenever the leaf falls down, or whenever these characters all like run down into their ant hills, and it's like this cool path that you see all of them running through visually, or like where Dot, like the soon-to-be princess, is like running away from like one of the grasshoppers and jumps into a little leaf branch and goes right inside the plant. And like as like a little hideout in there. I think that's so creative and cool with all the little crooks and nannies they can do with being in the size of an ant. Like, I just think that's very cool, because that's what ants would do, like hide in spots like that. Or using a dandelion to fly, or having like tunnel huts. Like, they're just so cool. And Randy Newman's score, even though it seems like he's only got like a couple different musical pieces in this movie, it's like repeated a lot, which is fine, because the musical score, I think, is really, really great in this movie. It really works on a lot of levels, because the musical score is very fun, engaging, emotional, happy, fulfilling by the end. Like, the last piece of music, whenever they're standing on top of the anthill and just like waving goodbye, I think is one of the coolest pieces of music, because Randy Newman is truly one of my favorites. And of course he did Toy Story, and of course he did other Pixar movies with the scores, and this one in particular is a fantastic score, even though it's not like the whole movie is a different score. It's like he kind of repeats the score a lot, which is fine, but I do love his score in this movie. Again, the chemistry in this is so well done. Like, all these characters are so funny and so charming, and I like the scene. There's another scene I really like where the kids make like a mural of like on a leaf of all the circus guys fighting, because they think that they're fighters, and it shows that them all with blood, like showing them all like murdering all the grasshoppers, and then it shows Heimlich's dead and cut in half, and they're like, "Yeah, we killed you in the picture to make it look more dramatic," and then Heimlich just like throws up. Like, jokes like that are really funny, or jokes whenever Francis, the ladybug, played by Dennis Leary, awesome, is always thought to be a girl because he is a ladybug. But I think that it's so funny with his reactions in his performance, where like he freaks out and says, "So, being a ladybug automatically makes you a girl, does it?" And then like the two bugs that are trying to hit on him are like, "Oh, he's a guy." Like, "Francis, your boyfriends in the circus are here." Like, jokes like that are so hilarious and really well done. And again, just everything about this movie, I think it stinks that this one's kind of forgotten in Pixar's wider spectrum of movies because there's only one movie in this one, and it was made in 1998. So it's like it's a lot of people. There's a lot of ones that a lot of people forget about this one, unfortunately. But I really do love this one. I don't think it's my favorite Pixar movie, but it is really, really fantastic, and it's really a great one overall. And it's really unfortunate that it doesn't get a lot of recognition nowadays. I mean, it did whenever it came out. When it came out, it got good reviews. I don't know if it was as good as Toy Story, but it got good reviews that said that it was really worth a second film from Pixar. But for me, this one is really a great time, and I really enjoy this one. I really enjoy all the characters, the animation, the musical score, the humor. Everything about this one works for me. A really great Pixar movie. So that is my review on A Bug's Life. Tell me down below what you guys think of this movie, and thank you guys so much for watching.